All right, it looks like we have a few people joining us. So excited to start this. Put a smiley face in the chat box if you're excited just like I am. So I know a lot of us, this is like lunchtime, so this is good lunch and learn. Yes, I see Faiza and Christina. You guys are on here, and I'm also live on Facebook. So my Facebook groups and those on my page, welcome to this webinar as well. We're gonna go ahead and get started. It's exactly noon. Oh, there's Chantel. Welcome everyone. I'm going to try to make this as interactive as possible. And so when you walk away today, you're going to walk away with some value. And that's all that I'm all about, is giving back value and quality that is going to, that you can use on your jobs today, right? And that's what matters. All right, let's get started. So today's webinar is about what are the attributes of a successful project manager. So put a yes right now if you have the title of a project manager. And yeah, let me hear from you. Are you currently a project manager? You may not have the title, actually. I should take that back. A lot of us don't, but we do the work of a project manager. So if you do the work of a project manager, type a yes for me. No, okay. So I have maybe one person. Let me see. All right, okay, Christina. Christina does the work of a project manager, has the title. Awesome. Regardless, I think this webinar is going to be helpful whether you are a project manager or want to go into project management and really understand what are those successful attributes that is going to get your team motivated and get your team to do the work. And so there's some key things here that we're going to talk about. All right. Let's get started. Let me get the agenda here. Okay, so today, what we're going to cover is I'm going to introduce myself and kind of let you guys know who I am, right? The person behind the computer. And then we're going to go into, what makes you a project manager? How do you get that title? How does the organization recognize you? We're going to go over that. And then we're also going to cover the top 4 attributes of a project manager. And these are things that I have seen in my experience as a project manager that has driven projects to success. And that's what I'm going to be sharing with all of you today. Okay, let's do this. A little bit about me. So, oops, I think you guys can see that. Yes, okay. So my name is Majuba Bianchi. A lot of you may know me because I've either worked with you or you are in my PMP training class. So if anyone from the PMP training class is here, put a smiley face for me, please. Let's see if I've got anyone from my class joining today. So I come in with about 15 years of project management experience. So that goes from the IT project management world to the Department of Defense, USAID, World Bank, you name it, I have done project management. So I am a certified project manager through the Project Management Institute. I have worked on complex projects that were highly integrated, both from an organizational level and outside of the organization. I am also a certified Scrum Master and have worked in the agile project management world for about 8 years. I have my MBA in IT project management. So as you can see, I kind of followed this pattern of project management. And, one of the things that I like to do, I'm a passion infuser, and I love to share my knowledge. So that's what I'm all about. No worries, Faiza. I understand. We all have meetings to go to. All right, so let's talk about who is a project manager, right? So when you think about a project manager, generally they're given that title or authority from the organization. So this could be within a project charter, or when you're hired, you're given the title project manager, but some of us aren't given that title, but we still do the project management work. Um, and a project manager is generally responsible for the outcome of the project. So whether the project goes well or goes bad, ultimately it becomes your responsibility as a project manager, and the finger pointing goes towards us, the project managers, right? And our goal is that as project managers, that we meet the objectives that was laid out for us in that charter, and that the ultimate result is what the customer wanted. So a lot of us are on a daily basis doing tasks and delivering work that the customer wants, and ultimately all of that deliverables and the work combined is the ultimate outcome of that project. So project manager is responsible for that daily work. And so this is a pretty cool picture of a project manager behind his desk, right? What are we doing? We're managing cost. We're managing schedule. We're continuously communicating. 90% of our time is spent with communication, whether it's emails, phone calls, and then give me a smiley face if you're always in meetings, right? I know I am. Most of my time is spent in meetings, and as much as we hate to join them, sometimes they are needed just so we can understand where the project is. Yep, Christina's giving a smiley face. Awesome. And so one of the things about communication is because there's so many different pieces for a project manager to bring together. I mean, on a daily basis, we're talking to 5 or 6 stakeholders, key stakeholders. We may have team members that range from 5 to maybe even 50, right? And so think about the amount of communication that you have to do. And aside from that communication, the amount of planning, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So one of the things that I'm going to cover here today, that, what are those 4 attributes that make you a successful project manager? And this, again, comes from my years of experience and what I've seen in the research that kind of shows out there that what makes you a great project manager. One of the things is clear, concise communications. How many of us are on projects where you have or have been on projects where you don't even know what's going on? Like, hold on, wait a minute, what was due? Or what just happened? Someone left the project. How many of us have faced that, right? And so as a project manager, you are in charge of that communication, but also clear, concise communication. The other thing is having that team first mentality, right? Going in knowing that you need your team, that without your team, you really can't get the work done, right? And so appreciating them. So we'll talk about that attribute here. The next thing is active listening and action-based feedback, right? How many of us go to our managers and are like, I'm having this issue and so, and at the end you come out and the issue is not resolved, and you're still having to deal with it, right? And so, and a lot of us are kind of lost. Well, you want to be that manager who actively listens and works through the problem with your team. What else, right? Be a leader, not a manager. I'm going to talk about this for a little bit. I'm a big proponent of servant leadership, and I'll talk about what that is. All right, so are you guys with me? Give me a smiley face if you're with me so far. Awesome. All right, cool. Well, let's start with the first attribute, communication. I don't think there's such a thing as over communicating, right? And so what does that mean? What does communication mean? I think communication starts with understanding, right? And so the first thing as project managers is that, do you understand who your team members are and how they like to be communicated to and how often? Yes, so begin with that. And then for those here, go ahead and put a frown face if you dislike Friday afternoon meetings. I know I do. If anyone puts a Friday afternoon meeting on my calendar, I get irked. I'm like, no, not on a Friday. I need a day where I can just plan, right? I mean, we all need that, a day of planning. And that's usually what I reserve my Fridays for. So ask your team, what days do they prefer to have meetings, right? And so that's about the understanding and then communicating when they want to be communicated during the times they want to be communicated at. The next thing is, what is your team's preferred method of communication? Some team members, like email, and some say, early in the morning, 8 a.m., I like to run a little scrum call, kind of understand where everyone is, and then get the status and then go on with your day. So if your team doesn't like daily 1-hour meetings and you see people are falling asleep, as a project manager, we have to be able to see those cues, right? Stop with those meetings, go back to the team and say, hey guys, how can I get you guys interacted with this project, right? And how can we make these meetings better? So that's when the team charter comes into play. The team charter, you can think of it as like the team playbook. When they like to meet, how often they would like to meet, how they would want these like meetings to go, right? You want an agenda, someone who has an agenda, someone who's going to take meeting minutes, a person who's going to follow up on actions, right? That is all part of communication, which ultimately results in keeping the customer happy, right? And so that's what we want. Another big thing with communication is that starting your project meetings, whether it's the daily meeting or it is like your weekly or bi-weekly meeting, let's start with what the objective of this project is. Keep it high level. For example, like I worked on a lot of projects that had to do with the veterans and giving back in terms of healthcare and, or some of the number, like having one streamlined phone number. Well, yes, that's a project. Well, what are you giving back to, right? And so for me, it was always bringing it back to a personal level. Like, we're helping the veterans. We're helping serve someone who has served our country. And so now this brings more a humanity side of it to the project. So think about your project. What is the ultimate goal? Who is it benefiting? And does your team understand that? And are you as a project manager communicating that? Awesome. All right. So the next thing is team first mentality. Ooh, this one I know is probably like a hard one, right? But there's so much to be said with keeping your team first. So what does that really mean, right? Your team is your partner. It is not someone that you're there to boss around, right? At least I don't think of it that way. Your team is your partner in getting the work done for the customer. So, and really without them, you may not even have a project. So it starts with appreciating your team. What's the next thing? So how you work with your team and how you inspire them and motivate them is what results to good work. And you're like, whoa, I don't have time for this, right? But if you have time for, if you really want your deliverables to be on time for your customer and of good quality, you should make time to motivate your team, to inspire them, to take them back to what matters, what this project is all about. You must gain your team's respect, right? Trust and respect. So how do you do that? How do you gain your team's trust? So, throughout the 15 years of my life, I've been part of a team and I've been a project manager. And I'll tell you, I've loved my project managers who haven't put me under the train, right? Or the train tracks or whatever. And so those that kind of back you up, like, I get you. I understand, you know, you need more time. This is a difficult task. I think looking at the schedule, you can have an additional 2 days, right? Back up your team, be the leader who steps in and helps them out at the moment that they need your help. Don't reprimand them if they're late. You know, work with them, and that's how you're going to gain the trust and the respect. And then we talked about how to do that, right? And so here's some pointers for you. Respect them and be flexible in your management approach. And put a smiley face if you guys have a family or children and need flexibility in your work schedule. All of us, I'm a mom of 3, right? And we know how that works. We have our jobs, we have our home jobs, and you know, all these activities that we have to do. Wouldn't it be nice if your manager said, you know what, it's okay if you come in at 10 a.m. and work till 5, or come in at 10 a.m., work till 4 from the office, and then go home and finish your work. I bet you anything that that team member is going to be a high performer because you're understanding the balance that they need in their lives. So be flexible. It is so important. What else, right? Here, you need a place of communication, everything, team mentality. Hear what your team needs. If they need a SharePoint, if they need a place of collaboration, provide that to them, right? And then also, does the team know really what they're supposed to do? Do you have their roles and responsibilities clear? Do they have their job descriptions? They could have been hired for one thing, but they could be doing something completely different on this project, right? So do you have those down? Does your team understand what their role is on the project? So again, that team mentality that comes in, going back to them and saying, what do they need and how can I help them get to that level of, you know, placing their needs first. What else? Okay. Ask yourself, are you working with the team or against the team? And put a frowning face if you have ever worked on a project where you felt like your project manager or your manager was working against you. Just you guys were not in tune, right? And so I know that I have been on several projects where I'm like, I'm not seeing eye to eye with my project manager. And so that in itself didn't really motivate me to do my best work. So think for a moment, are you with the team or are you against the team? Because really that's how it works. Active listening. Wow, this is a big one, right? So talk less, listen more. You know, it's definitely a skill that we need to build on. You know, maybe not for all of us, but I know this is something that I had to work on and I am continuously working on active listening. What does that mean, right? When I think of active listening from a project management perspective, that means don't solve your team's problem for them. If you have a team member that comes to you and says, you know, they're having issues with testing, how about you throw it back at them? How do you think you can fix that? How did we come to this problem? What do you think is going to resolve it? What do you need from me to resolve this issue? Right? You're getting them to think of that solution and think about the impact that's having on their growth. So active listening is listen for the problem, understand what they're saying, and then ask the right questions so that your team member can come to that solution by themselves. I think that in itself is a great skill to have. What else, right? Active listening tools that you can apply today. Be neutral, don't be judgmental. How many of us have gone to a manager, right? And they might not be saying it, but their body language and their face is kind of like they're so annoyed that you're in front of them. And so let's not be that, right? Let's be someone who's open, who's patient, who, you know, takes things back to the team member and asks them how they can resolve the issue by themselves, how you can help. And then at the end, summarize it all. And An even better thing that you can do is follow it up with an email. Hey, you know what, Faiza, you came to me with this issue. I heard you. I think, I listened to you, and in terms of what you're going to do, and you're going to do A, B, C, and D, I can support you with E and F. And if you need anything, let me know. That's it, right? And that's all part of active listening and following up. Number 4, manager versus leader. Okay, so put a frowny or sad face emoji if you have ever worked with a manager that made work difficult for you. I know that I have. I used to work with a manager where I was supposed to be in the office at 8:30, and if I showed up at 8:45 a.m., then they would be right in front of my cubicle asking me why I was 15 minutes late. I'll tell you what, I did not want to be there. I didn't want to be on that project. I didn't want to work for them. They didn't motivate me to work. They didn't motivate me to do my best. So that's what a manager does. So a manager maintains things, right? They do the administrative work. They control and solve problems, and that controlling can increase or decrease, right? Depending on who you're talking about. They're more of operational thinkers, right? They think just at the level that they're at. And generally, the perception of the team is that they're workers, that they can't think of by themselves. And that really you are the thought leader, right? The manager. And so therefore you only know the best. So, and a manager will generally ask, how things are done, or like how and when. That's really what they're interested in. So when we talk about a leader, on the other hand, and put a smiley face if you have worked with a leader that even to this day you are in contact with and they've become mentors over the years. I know that I have. I've worked with several leaders, and those that I mimic today on my projects because they made an impact on me, right? As an individual, as a person. So think about it, like that's the kind of person you want to be. We always want to look up and be like the people who make us feel good. And so in terms of leadership, and you can see, right, I am more towards the leadership, and that's really how I run my project. So in terms of a leader, what you're doing here, you're dealing with your team's challenges with them, right besides them, right? You're pulling that rope. And so that's what a leader is. You're people focused. How can I help you? What do you need? Do you need a different keyboard? Do you need a better chair to sit on? Is your back hurt? Simple things as like the temperature of your office. Some people like to look out the window. There could be an empty office for days. Well, you know what? If your team member likes to look out the window and that's going to motivate them, put them there, right? What's the big deal? Like, as a leader, you should listen and understand what your team needs and do it. Again, it also goes back to ask the what and why, right? Why are you having this problem? What can I help you with? How did we come to this issue? What can I help you with? What do you need, right? And it all stems from how can you help your team member get to the solution? That's what a leader does. And then as a leader, you're not just thinking about the project, right? You're thinking the project, the organization, you're thinking outside of the organization, inside of, all of these factors. So when I say that, when you're on a project, you're thinking about the impact of certain government policies that came out. You might be thinking about the organization changes. Maybe they're getting a new ERP system. How does that impact your team, your project, and the outcome of your project as a whole, right? So here, as leaders, we're integrators, and we're thinking about things in a more global way. And so one of the things that I love about Agile, I'm a big proponent of following the Agile manifesto in terms of running the project. And one thing that Agile talks about is being a servant leader. So a servant leader recognizes and understands feelings and emotions that are being experienced by the team. And also a servant leader is right beside the team. They're not in front of them, they're not behind them, they're not on top of the team, but they're right beside the team members, solving the issues, being their backup, going to HR to say, you know, my team's been working hard, we've been meeting all the deliverables, we need a day out. And the team wants to go bowling. Well, let's do that, right? And let's do that for the team. And that's how you get your respect. And that's how you are known as like the project manager that makes things happen. And as project managers, we need our team to make things happen. So if you guys remember the first slide, I had them in circles. And as you can see, all of these 4 attributes, and I can go back to that, is that all of them really overlap, right? This being a clear, concise communicator, putting the team first, active listening, being a leader is what brings the project, what makes the project successful, and what makes you a successful project manager. Awesome. I'm going to go back to the part here. That was the 4 attributes I wanted to cover. Now, for anyone that's interested, I do teach the project management PMP certification course. If you want to take a class with me, I would love to have you in my class and give you some more tips and in terms of how to pass the PMP, of course, and also make you that successful project manager, even more successful project manager than you are. As part of today's webinar, I have included a bonus of getting your resume on Completely Fit, going through doing interview coaching and getting that salary you so much deserve. So this is a one-time offer, and you know, you can go ahead and reach out to me if you're interested in this. I'll put my email address, but for those that joined today, this is definitely one of my specials. I'm going to go ahead and put my email address, and now it's time for me to answer your questions. Absolutely. All right, so let me now get to all of you. So go ahead and ask me your questions. They could be from real life situations that you're going through right now, or they could be things that you may be facing in the future. So absolutely, I will be sharing this webinar. It's going to be live. It's live right now, but it's going to go up on my YouTube page, and I will email it to those that have registered for this webinar. It'll go up on my PMP study group and the 3T System Facebook page. Absolutely. So what questions can I help answer for you? What are some of the things that you're currently facing on your projects? You know, anything else, or any thoughts about this presentation, this webinar today? I did realize that I have a Q&A button. So you can actually click on the Q&A button, and I would be more than happy to answer your questions. Wow, so I've got a question by Natasha. This is a great question. It says, as a PM and a leader, how do you deal with managers who aren't leaders? This is a great question. And so in my situation, you know, what I do is I take it back and I actually remind that manager that, you know, what the objective of the project is, and I bring it back to the team. I do. Every moment that if I'm faced with a situation like that, I definitely speak up. I try not to just I don't want to use the word obey, but a lot of times we're too shy about saying how we feel. I just let them know that, what they're doing, their approach that they're taking is not going to be beneficial for the project. And I remind them what the objective of the project is, and to really get there, we need to take steps A, B, and C. Again, it really depends whether I have the authority or not on that particular project. I may not have the authority, and in that instance, for me, it's merely an input, and if I can, I will write that down so leadership may know that this was brought up. But ultimately, all we can do is speak from our experience and knowledge, and whether the current manager takes that into account, that's up to them. We've got another question by Christina. I know you specialize in PM and IT, but do you have or recommend any other resources for PM in marketing? Great question. One of the things with the overall project management practice, and this is the project management book of knowledge, right? And so that the PMBOK can be applied to really any industry, whether it's marketing, construction, engineering, IT. Really what the PMBOK teaches you is a set of processes, and that in order to be successful, what do you do? And so in terms of the PMBOK, there are 5 distinct process groups, or you can call that as a project life cycle. So if you're in marketing, think about like a marketing project that you're going, it is going to go through the life cycle, right? And so what does that life cycle mean? Initiating. So you're going to initiate the project and receive authority. You're going to receive authority to say, yes, you're the project manager, and funding, receive funding for that project. Then you go into planning, right? Everything you're going to do to make that marketing project a success. Then your team's going to use that plan to execute against. And then you're going to monitor that work and ultimately successfully close the marketing project. So this is an example of how where the PMBOK can really fit into any industry. And so, I'm not sure if there are special groups that do marketing project management. I'm sure there are. I'm not aware of any, but I would say that any group that talks about project management should be able to help you in your field as well. Great questions. Great questions. Anything else? Any other questions from you guys? It can be related to anything else, maybe not covered on this webinar. Anything that anyone here wants to share? You're welcome, Faiza. Thank you for joining. Awesome. You can type in your question here in the Q&A box. Christina, thank you, Christina, for joining as well. I hope this was helpful. I wanted to keep it short and sweet, so it's the right kind of information and precise, and give you also some time to go back and have your lunch. But I would love to take any other questions. I can definitely stay around and answer any questions that you might have. All right, well, if no other questions, thank you so much again for joining. My name is Majuba Bianchi. What's the PMBOK? I hope that's what you said, the PMBOK. Oh, the PMBOK, yes. I'll go ahead and type the name. It's the PMBOK Guide 6th edition. So, and so what that stands for, PMBOK Guide 6th edition. So what that stands for is the Project Management Book of Knowledge. And so basically the project management book of knowledge tells you exactly how to run an effective and efficient project. Granted, you may not use all of the processes within it, but whichever industry you're in, you can pick and choose the processes that are going to best get you to the outcome of your project, which is to meet the objectives and have a happy customer. Yes, absolutely. You are welcome. I'm glad you got that. And if you have any other questions, Christina, let me know. I'll be more than happy to answer that for you. Looks like we have one more question from Natasha. How can a person strengthen their communication skills? That's a really good question. I think it starts with first understanding what you're lacking in communication, what are your gaps in communication, and as a project manager, and it's going back to the team, right? So understanding what you lack. And so one of the things that I do is I always listen to those that are speakers and those that, are in leadership roles, and I kind of see how they communicate. And, and a lot of times those individuals will take the time to listen and understand, and then they give feedback. So over the years, I've just learned to, for a moment, just pause, stay still, and just observe what truly is good communication, what resonates to you, and then what skills can you use from others that that you need. But there's also specific steps out there in terms of communication, and so I'll be more than happy to send that over as well. Awesome. So Chantel says, any suggestions on education requirements to getting into project management? I think if you don't have, look at your resume, you may already have project management experience, that you are not considering project management. So the way we think of a project is really, you're providing a unique service or result that has a start date and a finish date, right? And so have you done anything like that where it had a specific start and a specific finish and you had particular tasks to do within it? If so, then you've already worked on projects. So what I would do is go on Indeed, search for a project manager resume, and see if you've done some of that work and use those words within your resume. If you have not, then I would suggest definitely going for your certified associate project management. That's a certification that's provided through the Project Management Institute. It's like an entry level to the PMP, and it kind of sets your foot into the world of project management, and simultaneously going and finding jobs with the title of a project coordinator, project expediter, project analyst, program analyst. Really, any of those titles will give you exposure to a project. Also, a business analyst positions. Any of those should help you in getting your foot in the door with project management. Great question. Chantel, was that good? I mean, there's so many like different types of project management certifications and degrees and MBAs and all of that out there. If you want to have that discussion, I would love to talk to you in terms of what would be the best approach. And feel free to email me and reach out to me. I don't mind having that conversation with you. I think it's important to draw out the steps for your career and look back, 5 years from now, where do you see yourself? And then work kind of backwards towards that goal. Any other questions? the project management field is so diverse. And even right now in my class, I'll tell you, I have engineers, I have those who are in the field of medicine, and there's those who work on NASA plans, right? And so many different types of people uh, um, are in my class. So what that tells you, marketing, I have individuals from the background of marketing. And so really project management can be applied into every industry that you can think of, because it's just a set of standards that help you successfully manage a project to success, right? Meeting those objectives, ensuring that what the customer asked for, those requirements, that you're working towards those within the scope of that work. And ultimately, what you're producing is what the customer wants. Of course, there's steps right in the middle of that, right? Quality assurance, quality control. What does that mean? So we can, we can elaborate on parts of project management for hours at a time, but definitely it's a rich field that's going to help you understand project management and how to manage from A to Z. Yeah, I know, Chantel, I mean, if you are trying to get into the world of project management, starting with, you may already have the experience. I mean, just being in the military and doing that work, that in itself, some of the work that you probably did already sets you out to be an expert. But I would be more than happy to review your resume and give you pointers, and give you some directions in terms of what would work best for you. If anyone wants to add anything, you can also raise your hand and I can allow you to talk, and then you can provide your feedback and give your experiences on a project. We can do it that way as well. But yeah, any other questions? I'm right here for you guys to answer anything in terms of project management, any issues maybe you're going through. I would love to, and we have other experts on the call who have years and years of project management experience who can also give feedback, right? And so this is a collaboration. And when we're talking about collaboration, it's exchange of ideas and helping each other get through some of the roadblocks that we experience on projects. You are very welcome. And one of the things that I always see is I see project analysts or program analysts who want to take it up to the next step of becoming a project manager. What do you do, right? And so I have seen that as well. I started from being a project analyst, and the way I worked myself up, sometimes it was just knocking on my manager's door and saying, hey, look, I'm ready for something different. I know how to do manager schedule. I know how to take really good meeting minutes. I know how to take, follow up on actions. I know how to do these project status reports. I'm ready for a different challenge, right? And so it's also going out there and saying what you're ready for and what you're going to do to make sure that that work is completed. Because really that's all your project manager or your manager wants to know, that whoever's going to take over the tasks, they're not going to drop it, right? And then they're actually going to get it done. So as long as you can go and have that intelligent conversation and say, look, I know I may not have the total experience, but this is what I bring in. I'm a great communicator. I, you see my work and the customer likes me. I want an opportunity. I will not fail you. Sometimes it just starts with that, and knowing how to say it, if it's in a job interview, or knowing how to say it when you're right in front of your manager, and swallowing that fear and just moving forward with, saying what you deserve to get. And so it all starts from us. If you think that you deserve the next step up, then go for it. Don't wait for someone to tell you. grab it for yourself. That's really how I work. What other questions can I help answer for you guys? I see that a few others have joined. But if you're having, yes, I am going to provide a webinar recording for this. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm also taking in, I like to have guest speakers as well. And so if you have a topic that you would like to present and, need the platform for, I would love to coordinate that. It just, in the world of project management, there's so much that we can share and learn from each other. And that's what this is all about. Let's learn from each other, bring it to the forefront, because you don't know who's going through what, and we could really be each other's anchors and help each other out. Awesome. Any other questions? I know we're at 12:45. This webinar is going to go on for another 15 minutes. So I am here to help you answer any questions related to IT project management or project management, the PMP certification, the CAPM certification, Agile, what's the best route for me? What should I do? I'm having this issue on a project. My teammates are not listening to me. What do I do? And so I am here to answer any of those questions for you. I think we may have run out of questions, and that's fine too. I will be having another webinar that's coming out in the end of November. I'm going to let you guys know about that. And that webinar is actually going to go through our resume. What does your resume say about you, right? We all have a story to tell. And so when someone looks at your resume, what story are they reading? Is it an accurate picture of who you are professionally? So that webinar is coming up. If you want to know when, and if you want to register for it, go to the 3T System Facebook page, RSVP for that one. And I don't have the link, registration link up for it yet, but I will. And so part of that webinar will be that I will be giving you a resume template. So if you're looking to be in the world of project management and you want to know the kind of resume and what your story should be, that would be the next webinar. And so don't forget, go ahead and RSVP to that one. And if you guys have no other questions, I think it's pretty safe to say that we can end today's webinar. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave your feedback, your review. Let me know how I can improve and what other topics I can bring to you, right? And so this is all about making sure that this is successful for my audience. So leave a review, leave your comments. And again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for joining today and making this experience so worthwhile. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day and have a great weekend.